What if I told you that a dynasty of black African kings once ruled Egypt, not as outsiders but as liberators? That they revived its traditions, defended its temples, and were called pharaohs not just by force but by right. Today, we uncover the legacy of the 25th dynasty, the Kushite Pharaohs from Nubia. This is the story of the Black Pharaohs of Egypt, and why history tried to erase them. Long before Egypt was divided by colonial lines, its southern neighbor Nubia flourished. Nubia, known in antiquity as Kush, was home to powerful kingdoms like Kerma, Napata, and Meroe. With access to gold, trade routes, and military power, Kush was a land of culture, wealth, and black African identity. To the Egyptians, Kush was both a rival and a mirror. They shared gods, language scripts, and even architectural styles. But the Kushites had their own traditions, proud, distinct, and African. By the 8th century BCE, Egypt was politically fragmented. The glory of the old kingdoms had faded. Regional warlords competed for power. Egypt was vulnerable. Enter Piye, also spelled Pianki, a Kushite king from Napata. In a bold campaign around 747 BCE, Piye marched north, not to conquer but to restore. In his famous stele he declares, "I am the king of all Egypt. I do not take pleasure in battle, but I take pleasure in order." Piye defeated the rival Egyptian princes and entered Memphis, but instead of destruction, he brought revival. He preserved temples, honored the gods, and restored Mat, the principle of cosmic balance. Thus began the 25th dynasty, ruled by Nubian pharaohs. The Kushite kings weren't seen as foreign invaders. They embraced Egyptian traditions, dressed as pharaohs, and worshipped Egyptian deities. But they also carried the African dignity and traditions of Kush. Pharaohs like Shabaka, who preserved ancient religious texts, Taharka, who built temples and defended Egypt from Assyrian invasion, Tutankhamun, who fought to hold Egypt together in its final days of unity. Taharka especially became legendary. Under his reign, Egypt saw a cultural and religious renaissance. He built monuments across the Nile Valley and was mentioned in the Bible, 2 Kings 19:9, as a king who opposed Assyria. These were not colonizers. They were Africans preserving an African civilization. The Black Pharaohs restored Egypt's soul. They revived temple construction at Thebes and Karnak. They elevated the worship of Amun, a god they revered in both Kush and Egypt. Kushite art blended Egyptian motifs with Nubian realism, full lips, broad noses, and tightly curled hair depicted without apology. Their pyramids, though smaller than Giza's, still stand today at El Kuru and Nuri in Sudan. Over 200 pyramids dot Nubia's desert, each one telling a story of black kingship. Their rule didn't erase Egypt, it recentered it in Africa. Despite their strength, the 25th dynasty faced a powerful enemy, the Assyrian Empire. After years of resistance, the Assyrians invaded Egypt around 671 BCE, pushing the Kushite rulers back to Nubia. Tutankhamun, the last pharaoh of the dynasty, tried to retake Egypt, but was defeated. Still, the Kushite legacy endured. In Nubia, their descendants ruled for centuries more, building temples, cities, and tombs deep in the African interior. Why are the Black Pharaohs not widely known? Because their story challenges the colonial image of Egypt as disconnected from the rest of Africa. Western scholars once dismissed the Kushites as mere imitators. They couldn't accept that black Africans led one of Egypt's most spiritual and artistic revivals. The erasure wasn't accidental, it was strategic. Acknowledging the Black Pharaohs meant acknowledging that Africa produced not just laborers, but rulers, priests, scholars, and builders. The Black Pharaohs of Egypt weren't exceptions. They were a continuation of African greatness. Today their pyramids still stand, their names are inscribed in stone, their temples lie beneath the sands of Sudan. It's time we reclaim them, not just as Egyptian kings but as African kings, as part of our history, not separate from it. Their story reminds us, Africa was not silent before colonialism, it spoke in stone, in spirit, in sovereignty. This is episode 1 of Africa Before the Erasure. Stay tuned, we are just getting started.